Greetings! Welcome to the Lawn to Wildflowers informative presentation on honeybees. Without further ado, let's start learning why honeybees are crucially important to our U.S. economy, the major differences between native and invasive bees, and what we can do to relieve native bees of environmental pressures. As a part of the Lawn to Wildflowers team, we are striving to turn grass lawns everywhere into pollinator-friendly wildflower habitats. To help with this, it's important to be knowledgeable about the insects we're helping in the process. Honeybees are typically the first bee that comes to mind when thinking about American bees. The idea of them being of most importance to the environment, especially when they're non-native, is ludicrous when you think about the roughly 5,200 species of native North American bees. These two species down below are only two examples of important native bees out of thousands. The public seems to believe native bees have the same functionality and niche as honeybees, but they're actually quite different. The majority of bees are free-living, solitary bees that often only live in small colonies of 40 to 500 individuals. They make no honey and won't sting you, as they're often stingless or hard to provoke. Oftentimes, native bees target specific flowers only. It would be much easier to maintain a native bee population with just flowers rather than a whole honeybee colony. This bee is Apis mellifera, which is the honeybee that you can see outside almost every day. They differ from North American native bees by 1. Being native to Eurasia, 2. Being eusocial, which includes having overlapping generations, cooperative brood care, phylopatry, and reproductive altruism, 3. Colonizing in groups as large as even 80,000 bees, and 4. Producing honey. Since honeybees were most likely brought over from Eurasia by accident, that means there are some implications of having them live with native bees. Bacteria, viruses, and parasites are able to be spread to natives like wildfire, since honeybees are so abundant and always in contact with other bees. Non-native plants, including ones native to Eurasia, could possibly rise up in populations if honeybees prefer them over native plants. Animals have to compete for resources, so in that sense, native bees may be harmed since less of their preferred flowers are growing, and food even from their preferred flowers is diminishing. Viral, bacterial, and fungal infections are commonly spread amongst bee populations. There's something called the varroa mite, which reproduces within honeybee colonies, attaches itself to any bee body, and sucks the fat right out. This can drastically decrease the performance of bees up to death. It can also cause them to lose the ability of flight, due to the useless and wrinkled wings that they develop. All of these factors come into play when speaking of colony collapse disorder, but one infection called dysentery is mostly associated with just honeybees. Once the honeybee accumulates too much solid waste in its body and can't find time to release it, a bacterial infection begins, often leading to colony collapse. Colony collapse disorder, or CCD, is the phenomenon where bees become infected with such things and never return to the colony. What's left are usually some nurse bees and the queen. CCD can drastically harm our economy. Much of what you see around the media these days about saving honeybees may be because of this. We use products made by honeybees all the time. Products like honey, propolis, royal jelly, and beeswax are all organically created from honeybee secretions. We know that these bees help make candles, lubricants, and sealants, but substances like propolis can be used for their medicinal properties as well. Now let's talk about how honeybees aid our economy. In agriculture, honeybees work on the front line to help pollinate the food we eat. A whopping 11% of food crop production relies on pollination. That's worth about $14.6 billion a year. They not only help with the agricultural side of things, but the medicinal side as well. These bees are commonly used to help fight off bacterial or viral infections, and even cancer. Since honeybees are so abundant, we can rely on them to pollinate food for other animals, like cattle and poultry, indirectly aiding the meat and dairy industry. After hearing this, you'd probably be much more worried about the plummet of this invasive species, right? If honeybees are so crucial to our economy and pollinate so much, we should start to worry more, right? Well, the fact is that honeybees aren't going anywhere. They are currently too abundant and resilient to place them of higher importance than the native bees. It all comes down to this question: should we save the bees? Yes, please! To save the honeybees from developing infection to be spread to other bees, you can better manage the colony and keep them more secluded to their own food sources. To save the native bees from the plummeting in populations, thus hindering native plant growth, you can plant native wildflowers that are specifically native to your region of the country. Thank you for viewing our presentation regarding honeybees. We look forward to seeing more luscious native wildflower gardens accompanied by some magnificent native bees very soon.